Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm doing another bingo board challenge check-in because it is the beginning of July, which means the second quarter of the year has just finished. So I thought it would be fun to sit down and do another check-in and see where I am with my bingo board for our bingo crafting challenge. So the Bingo Crafting Challenge, if you are new and you don't know what I'm talking about, is a year-long knit-along or make-along that I am running on my YouTube channel. And basically you fill it in a bingo board that looks like this, with 9 different crafty challenges that you are setting for yourself for the year. It's absolutely not too late to join in. You just only have 6 months to do it, as opposed to 12 months, but you're welcome to join in. Details for everything about it can be found underneath the video in the description box, and it's just a super fun, relaxed challenge. It's not supposed to be high pressure, it's meant to be easy and enjoyable and fun. So this is my bingo board for this year so far. However, it is July, and July is a special month in the challenge because July is the month where you can make changes. So if there's anything that's not working for you on your bingo board, if there's anything that you're looking at and going, oh, I'm never going to manage that this year, now is the time to make those changes and to review what you put on there at the beginning of the year, because things change, especially in a year-long make-along. So this is where I started with. So we have track my in versus out. So that is in terms of the amount of yarn that comes in versus the amount of yarn that I'm using. Finish a blanket, finish 3 garments, complete a cross-stitch project, knit 6 pairs of socks, gnomes, a colourwork project, 2 advent projects, and try a new craft. Now this year we added an element of the option for using a random project generator in order to create some of your squares for you, and I used that for the square that ended up with a colourwork project and the square that ended up with a new craft. So that was fun to have a couple on there that I wasn't necessarily anticipating. So let's go into detail for each square, shall we? So first of all, tracking my in versus out. That's going all right. I've not been as on top of it this year as I have in previous years. And as I said when I set this up as a square, this is very much this isn't a stash down thing. This is very much an increased productivity. So I want to be knitting more things as opposed to using up all my yarn, if that makes sense. So it's very much tracking how productive I am in terms of the amount of yarn that leaves me, if that makes sense. I also have a few caveats with this. I have a couple of loopholes. So one of my big loopholes for this is that I am only counting yarn that I have purchased with my own money. I am not counting yarn that I have swapped with other indie dyers, and I guess in that sense I wouldn't count yarn that was gifted to me either, interestingly, but I haven't had any yarn gifted to me, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's going okay. I am not quite up to date with it. I'm hoping in the next couple of days, I'm at home with the kids for the next couple of days, so I'm hoping that I might get time to kind of sit down and go through and update that. Fortunately, I have my podcasts where I share all of the yarn that comes into my house, so I can go through those and check that everything is up to date and everything is correct. But I don't think it's far off. There's definitely a few outs, I think, that I might need to do. I think there might be a couple of gnomes that I maybe haven't weighed, and maybe a couple of pairs of socks that I've not weighed as well. So I might try and get those done so that we can update that and have it being up to date for the midpoint of the year. Okay, the next square, finish a blanket. Now this is one that is going to change. I had initially put this on here because I think I had finished a blanket on last year, or maybe I had finished 2 blankets, I can't remember, but I did finish 2 blankets last year. So I was like, oh, that's great, I can definitely finish another blanket. However, I finished the 2 blankets that were both over 50% completed, and as I've thought about this more and more this year, none of the blankets, despite having 9 or 10 on the go at the moment, none of them are anywhere near even a 50% mark. So the likelihood of me managing to finish them this year is really, really minimal. And it's a lot of pressure as well. So that square is going, and I am replacing it with something that I'm quite happy with. I like this idea. It's just came to me today. So I am replacing it with cast on 3 skeins of yarn that have entered my stash in 2025. So anything that I have purchased or I have received through swaps or anything like that, I need to complete this square. I need to, by the end of the year, have cast on 3 skeins of yarn from any yarn that has come into my yarn stash this year. So I really like that idea. It also potentially gives me permission to start the new blanket that I want to with the chai latte minis that I'm getting from Hannah at Chromatic Yarns, because, you know, that would count as casting on 2025 yarn. But there's also other projects. You know, I've bought yarn for projects at yarn shows and things like that, and I don't want them to sit in stash for years until I finally come to that project. So that is what this one's about. I decided not to go with finished projects using that yarn. I thought I would just have it as at least to get them cast on this year would be really, really nice. And it's a way of kind of stopping some of that yarn from languishing, because if you're anything like me, you buy lovely yarn and you put it in your stash, and then it's not that you forget about it, but like either it becomes special and you're not ready to cast it on, or you do forget about it and it just sits there in your stash for a while until you finally come back to it. So I don't want that to happen, and that's what this square is hopefully going to do. Then we have finish 3 garments. Now, I was debating changing this one. I was wondering whether I should reduce this one to finish 2 garments or whether I should keep it as 3. But I do have plans for new garments this year. I already finished this one here, which is my Lento. It's a pattern by Jonna Helen. You can hear loads more about it on one of my recent podcasts. So this was the first one I finished this year. So that is 1 garment ticked off the list. I have yarn caked up ready to cast on a Tolster tank with some boucle yarn, and I also have yarn sitting on the island at the studio ready to be caked up to cast on the Twist cardigan by Amber O'Brien, as well as having yarn in my stash for the violet tee and also other yarn that I have ideas that I would like to do with. So I feel like 2 more garments this year, it might be a challenge, but it is potentially doable. So I am going to leave this square as it is. We then have finish a cross stitch, and this has been ticked off because I did finish a cross stitch this year. I finished my Winter Wonderland cross stitch kit, was a pattern by Caterpillar Cross Stitch. So that is a square that has been ticked off. I then have my knit 6 pairs of socks square. And I have already knit 4 pairs of socks this year, so I'm well over halfway to this, at the halfway point of the year. It's feeling very achievable so far, and I have challenged myself to knit all of the socks from the Handmade Sock Society this year, which is a series of patterns by Helen Stewart. If I do that, there are 6 patterns in there, so I will more than smash this goal. Eyes peeled, fingers crossed, we'll see what happens, but this definitely feels achievable. Then we have gnomes. My goal was to knit 8 gnomes this year. So far I have knit 4 gnomes, which puts me halfway to my goal. I do have 2 sets of gnomes on the needles at the moment, so this still feels like an achievable goal with 6 months left of the year, and my addiction to knitting gnomes as well. So yeah, definitely an achievable one. Then we have finish a colourwork project. This one is ticked off because I did finish the Alaska hat earlier in the year, and that was a colourwork project. I also did a vlog of that, my Conquering Colourwork vlog. There is hopefully another one coming soon. I am planning to cast on some colourwork mitts and do a vlog of that as well in my little Conquering Colourwork challenge to myself. I just need to find some time to actually get that project cast on and find it a time when I can also sit down with my camera and do it all. But that is definitely coming sometime in the next few months, hopefully. We then have finish 2 advent projects. Now, I am counting this as half done because the cowl that I knit for Arthur that I finished last month was using an advent scrappy swap that I do with a group of friends of mine. And as my friend said, if you're opening something every day during Advent, then it counts as an advent. So therefore, that is an advent project that has been finished. So that is 1 of 2. I also have my jigsaw puzzle shawl, which is over 50% completed, and that is also using an advent calendar for that, so that will class as an advent project, and I feel like it's definitely achievable to get that finished by the end of the year. So another one that is feeling fairly achievable. And then finally we have a new craft. I am marking this one as done because I went to a needle punch workshop a couple of weeks ago. I don't have the physical thing I made with me, but I made this lovely little needle punch heart coaster. Thoroughly enjoyed the evening. It was really, really good fun. I would definitely give needle punching a go again as well, because it was, I found it quite therapeutic. It felt a little bit like cross stitch. I think because of the fabric you're using, I forgot what it was called, it's a houndstooth or something, is similar to an Ada, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I would definitely be tempted to try it again. So that is where I am with my bingo crafting challenge this year. I'm really enjoying the challenge this year. I mean, I enjoyed it last year, but I felt like last year I didn't make it achievable enough for myself. The goals I set myself were probably a little bit too challenging, and I've learned a lot about myself and about my crafting from doing this challenge. Has anyone else found that? Have you found that you've kind of learned about the way you craft and the things you craft through doing this challenge? I don't know, maybe it's just me that I found it quite an educational challenge to take part in. It's been really, really fun. I am hoping that I could potentially double up on my complete a cross stitch project, because I'm currently working on the Witchy Way cross stitch by Caterpillar Cross Stitch, and I feel like I could get that done by the end of the year. I'm hoping that I will beat my goal of 8 gnomes this year. I'm hoping that I will end up knitting more than 8 gnomes. The same with socks. I set a goal of 6 socks, but I'm really hoping that I will actually beat that goal, especially if I do manage to keep up with the Handmade Sock Society and get all of those socks knit this year, which would be an amazing accomplishment, I think, and really maybe help bring back my sock knitting mojo, which has been missing for a little while. The biggest challenge I think that is left on this board is the garments. It is the knit 3 garments. Obviously, as I said, I've already finished 1. I do need to knit 2 more in order to be able to tick this off. And I do have a habit of procrastinating these things. So I do need to get on with those. And I feel like that needs to be my biggest priority. I also need to make some decisions about what yarn I'm going to cast on for my new square. I've got a fair amount of yarn that has come in the last 6 months, I guess. The Magical Worlds Sock Club from Laura at the Lonely Knitter has been coming in, but I'm planning on holding on to that for next year and making socks out of that next year. The Chai Latte minis from Hannah at Chromatic Yarns have been coming in. Those I'm tempted to start a new blanket with. That could be a potential to cast on for definite. I've also had some really fun sock yarn come in, which I could use as some of the Handmade Sock Society patterns potentially. So I think that needs to be a little delve through my stash, a little look back through at podcasts and what has actually come in this year to decide on some projects there. But that could be quite a fun thing to do, I think, delving through my stash and deciding on projects for 3 skeins that have come in this year. So that's what my bingo board challenge is currently looking at. How about you? How are you doing? How many squares have you got ticked off at this midpoint through the year? What changes are you making to your bingo board? Let me know either in the comments down below or over on Discord. And it's really fun to see what everybody else is doing and how people's progress is. I really enjoyed going through, because I was having a little look for a new square for me. I went through and had a little look at some of your bingo boards to give me a bit of inspiration and to make some decisions. And it was really fun to see all the different things that people have picked for their crafting. Let me know in the comments what changes you've made, how you're getting on. Thank you very much for watching. I know it was a quick one, but I hope you're enjoying the bingo board challenge as much as I am, and I will see you soon in another video. Bye.